Good day, Brittle Planet listeners. This is Eric Peterson, quarantining from Salt Lake City today. And today is my honor to be joined by John Bush from Armored Saint. How are you doing today, John?
What's up, Eric? How are you, buddy?
I'm good.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Where are you quarantining from?
I'm in Los Angeles. That's homeland here, the homestead here where I was born and raised and still reside. And I'm here right in the mid-city, and it's a beautiful day. It's supposed to be really hot the next couple of days. They said, I heard somewhere that they said on Saturday might be the hottest day in the history of the city.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that sounds pretty awful. In any case, that's where we're at.
So how are things
waiting for air conditioning?
How are things quarantining down there? Are you guys kind of rolling with things and doing okay?
We're fine. You know, we've done pretty good at complying with the things that the people of position of power are telling us to do, and you know, I'm ready to break free a little bit. I'm ready for some concerts.
Yeah.
And, we've done pretty well, but I'm venturing out. I'm always wearing my mask, but I'm venturing out a little bit here and there.
Good. Yeah. Well, I just want to tell you a quick story I got for you about how I discovered Armored Saint, because I think you'll love it, and I don't think you'll ever hear this again. So
okay, let's hear it.
When I was a kid, I grew up in Northern California in a little town called Eureka. And I always went to this record store and I bought albums from this record store called The Works. And I bought this album. I was buying these albums, and this guy says to me, "Hey, you should check out this band Armored Saint. Check out this March of the Saints album." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And I checked it out and I loved it. And so I started going back to that guy every time and saying, hey, Mike, can I get what do you recommend? And he recommended all this great stuff. And then the last time I went in there, I went in and I said, "Where's Mike?" And they said, "Oh, he just went out. He just joined a band called Faith No More."
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah. So I used to buy records from Mike Patton, and he recommended Armored Saint, March of the Saint to me.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that's awesome. Wow, that's funny. I mean, Mike Patton is like one of my favorite singers. I really, the guy is unbelievable. As a matter of fact, just recently when I don't want to sing to Armored Saint because I don't want to burn out on my band, quite frankly, but I'm still trying to keep my voice in shape. I basically just go through my catalog of music and just kind of like start alphabetically. I'll just start going down, and not too long from it. Recently, it was actually that I was in I got to F, so I was singing the Faith No More, and I went through the whole, basically their whole catalog, and I was singing to all the different records, some that I'm a little more fond than others, but yeah, it was great. It was good, challenging stuff to try to sing Mike Patton. Which is, he's amazing. But that's great. I'm honored by that because he's incredible.
Yeah, so that's how I discovered you guys way back when, and it's funny because you guys are on the Chrysalis label, and you were with like Blondie and Pat Benatar and Huey Lewis and the News. What was it like being on only metal band, really being on that label?
Well, UFO was on Chrysalis, which is an amazing band. Yeah. And Robin Trower was on Chrysalis, and of course, because UFO was, and then the MSG records that Michael Schenker put out were also on Chrysalis. But for the most part, I mean, we were probably, after us, I think it was after us, they actually signed Vinnie Vincent.
Oh.
So, I mean, if you want to call Vinnie Vincent metal, but you could probably. Yeah. But it's funny you say that because they weren't too schooled in the world of metal, and that probably hurt us a little bit. The guy who signed us, Ron Fair, who's somebody we still look back with a lot of fondness. He was just a real diehard Armored Saint champion, and he really supported our cause, and he went on to be a very successful music exec, and like signed to Christina Aguilera, and I think he even produced a couple of her records, and so he's a very talented guy, and he was always talking about how his first signing was Armored Saint, which was really cool.
That is cool.
We struggled sometimes with Chrysalis. I always liked the centerpiece of the record. I don't know why, as a butterfly. It's a little kind of candy, sappy, but I always liked it for some reason. And so when we had our records and they had that the middle with the Chrysalis logo, and I always dug that. But we could have probably used a few more people with a little bit more knowledge about metal in the marketing department.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned, though, the center of the album, because that's one of the things I remember about Chrysalis Label is that butterfly, the blue circle with the butterfly. And that's how I remember a lot of my albums, is based just on the center of the album. It's.
Yeah, well, totally. Because that was you. Well, not only were you, I know record companies get a lot of grief, and probably rightfully so at times. But I think that when you're a fan of bands and music, you were also those kind of iconic artistic logos of all the different companies, Atlantic, and Swan Song when Zeppelin did it, and CBS, and like I said, Chrysalis. You just remember it, So you didn't know what maybe some of the ins and outs of the workings of the label and all that stuff, because who cared, right? You were a kid who just was into bands and stuff, and I felt the same. But yeah, I look back on that with fondness, maybe just because of the art and the logos and stuff at the labels.
Yeah, and then you guys moved to Metal Blade, and you released Symbol of Salvation. At that point, did you kind of feel like you were more at home?
Yeah, well, remember we started with Metal Blade, and that's where Brian put out the EP. So, and then that led us to getting a record deal with Chrysalis. I know, and the truth of the matter is, I think most bands thought of using an indie as a stepping stone to get to a major, and we did too. And Brian was always a supporter of Armored Saint, even after we left the label, and thankfully he welcomed us back with open arms, and we've been there ever since. And you could probably make the argument that maybe we should never have left in the first place, but that's just not the way the road went. But our relationship with Metal Blade is just, it's amazing. It's a great feeling. And whether they were employees in the past, the current employee and the current staff, and we just have a very good relationship with them. It's like a family feeling. And Tracy Vanna is the president, Joey's wife. And Brian has just always been there in our corner. Like I said, even when we weren't on the label, and I'm glad the Symbol was on it, because it was kind of like that cornerstone record in our history, and it was on Metal Blade, so that was meant to be.
And then, so after kind of you guys did the Symbol of Salvation, you kind of had some trouble, and you decided to disband at some point. And then, but before you disbanded, guys were on the Hellraiser 2 soundtrack. How did you get involved with that?
Right. Somebody just asked me that earlier. I don't know how we got on, to be honest. I really don't remember. I just remember being told you're going to be in Hellraiser, and we were like, awesome, because we really dug the first two Hellraiser movies. So, it was a cool experience, and kind of immortalized Armored Saint, and at least the horror movie genre. And I was telling the journalist I spoke to before that I actually thought that third movie that we were in was not one of the better ones, but that was my opinion. But and I think we were originally supposed to be killed in it, and they didn't really show that, which would have been cool.
Yeah.
But still to be associated with Hellraiser is really neat. And then he told me, the journalist said that the character who plays Pinhead said that was his favorite one. So hey, who knows?
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's cool.
I know.
So, and then at that point, you kind of moved on to Anthrax, and I have to tell you too that your time with Anthrax is one of my favorites. Like the Only and Inside Out are two of my favorite songs, and I love the video.
Great tracks.
I love the video for Inside Out.
It's great. The Twilight Zone thing.
Yeah.
Well, fun. Although I hated filming that because they were spraying this giant hose of water into our faces. And I had these, I put in these, they were like contact lenses that mess with my eyes, which you really couldn't even see until the end of the video when I look up. And by then I couldn't even open my eyes. So I look so sad when I look up in that last scene. But my eyes were tweaked for like days because they were, I had these hard plastic contacts in them.
Yeah.
And there was totally thorns in my eyes. So, but I do love that video. It's a great video.
So I don't want to dwell on Anthrax, but I just am curious as to, you were part of the band when they potentially thought about changing their name. What was that like during that time?
Well, we never really, I don't think we ever really entertained that. I mean, we didn't want to, that's for sure. I mean, it was weird after September 11th. There was a lot of, once that opportunist took advantage of that and sent some anthrax to a few people, and a few people did die. And I think there was a lot of fear whether or not that was going to be some major form of terrorism. And luckily it didn't happen, because if it did, and a lot of people died in conjunction with Anthrax, it might have been hard to get a tour.
Yeah.
Kind of what we were saying, like, oh no, like what is going to happen here? So then people started saying, well, you're going to change your name, you're going to change your name. I was like, well, we weren't planning on doing that. But I guess it was a period of concern of like, is this going to get really bad and a lot of people are going to die, and that could be a problem. But we never wanted to do that. The fact that we did that one legendary show at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York, when we all came out wearing like the same kind of hazmat suits.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's when we're not changing our name. We just stood there for like a minute in front of the crowd. It was pretty funny. It was a really creative idea.
Yeah, because I mean, at that time, you're right. It was a very scary time, and you just never knew what was going to happen. But I mean, deep in my heart, I knew
kind of like now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but deep in my heart, I knew you guys weren't going to change your name. It was just like, wow, is this really even? I can't even believe this is being even talked about.
Well, I make the joke that it's like, it would be equivalent to, having some like little minstrel group, back in medieval times, and being called Black Death. Or Plague. And, hey, we can't get gigs. What's the problem?
So that brings us to today, or this now. You guys are October 23rd. You got the new album coming out, Punching the Sky on Metal Blade. It's been 5 years since your last album. How has the recording process changed in that 5 years for you guys?
It's been we've kind of used the same tactic in recording and writing for the last couple of records, because it's just been productive, and it's been a kind of way we've had to work because everybody has their own lives and obligations. But, Joey has a home studio. It's a nice one. It's always fun to go there and work. And he makes these really cool demos. So whether it's ideas that he had or ideas the other guys had, he kind of rearranges them. And then we make these demos that really actually sound like records as they are themselves. And they're fun to sing on. And we try to keep a lot of, both of us actually want to try to keep a lot of the original vocal tracks, because sometimes you do something that you just never do again the same, and it sounds just right, so you can keep it. And we kind of set a template with tempo and stuff as to how we're going to work, and then we build on it, and then we go back, and when we actually get into the recording studio, we use that same template, and it's been real productive. And we use the same team for the last couple of records. Josh doing the drums and the drums edits. Bill Matoyer actually worked on the guitars and bass. We started with back in, he did the first demo we ever did in 1983, so it's always great to work with Bill.
Yeah.
And then Jay Rustin mixed it, and he mixed it hands down, and he did an amazing job with that record and this one. So, we're in a flow, and I think this record kind of picks up where Wynn left off, and it's just another step in our progress, and I love it.
Nice. And so the first single is End of the Attention Span, which is a very kind of appropriate song for today's lifestyle. What was this?
Yes, it is. For better or worse. Right?
Yeah. What?
Yeah, it's a cool song. You know, it's Phil actually had the title. I thought it was great. I don't know, so like let me try to write some words, and I feel like this should be pretty easy. Let me just look around. You know, and I always put myself, well, not always, but a lot of the times I put myself into the first person of it because I feel like I can relate to this. I'm sure that my wife can say I am just as much guilty of it as anybody else with attention span problems due to technology. I don't have any social media. I'm a rare bird with that, so that's something that doesn't take me away from life as it does a lot of human beings. But I think in general, I think there's some great aspects of technology, and then there's some detriments, and that's kind of what I am playing on with lyrics. And there's a little sarcasm and there's some humor in it, and the song is cool because I think it sounds kind of like a classic Armored Saint song from back in the day, but it also sounds very modern at the same time.
Yeah. And then you guys are going to do a live streaming event from the Whiskey, right? In October.
That is true. We are going to do that, and anybody can watch it. They can go to armoredsaint.veeps, veeeps.com. So armoredsaint.veeps.com, and you can watch it no matter where you're at, whether you're in Salt Lake or you're in Australia. And so it's just because it's going to be a live stream. So it's going to be real cool. And we've done these bundle tickets where you could just buy the ticket, which is like $10. I think it's pretty reasonable. And then you could get one where you get a T-shirt or the record, and it's a little more. And then you get a T-shirt associated with that show, and obviously the record is the key thing. And this is going to be a little bit like a record release party at the same time. So it's not like just a traditional gig, because it's not a traditional gig.
No.
Because there's not going to be anybody there. So it's going to be pretty bizarre. But hey, this is what we got to do, and it's going to be fun.
So as far as Armored Saint in 2020, what are you guys doing differently to try to reach fans that you traditionally would reach in a different way?
Well, we're doing this. Obviously, a lot of groups are doing shows like this too, because it's a way to play without touring, and obviously we can't tour and play in clubs, which is an absolute shame for a lot of venues. Venues are hurting all over the world, and it's scary because a lot of them probably will go out of business, and just like a lot of industries, which is just tragic, really. So, but what do? You just kind of roll with it, and that's what we're going to do. So, other than that, we actually did another video for song "Standing on the Shoulders of Giants," which is the lead track of the record, and that we just saw some early footage of that. Looks really cool and different from what we did with Attentions, and that should come out, I think, in a couple weeks. So maybe we'll make more videos. I mean, that costs money too, but luckily we've been able to keep budgets pretty down and still have these incredible quality of videos. Certainly Attention was a great video, and it was not made for that much, which is a testament to the director, Robert. He did a fantastic job. But these are the kind of things you still want to stay in the public's eye. It's weird to not go and do shows in conjunction with the record release, but I just don't know when that's going to happen. And, I mean, I'm not alone, obviously.
Yeah,
I want to go to shows. I miss going to concerts.
Oh man, it's just killing me. I've been watching, I watched your guys' last set. Was it Rock Blast? It's on YouTube.
Which one was it?
I think it was at Rock Blast in Europe.
Oh, right. Yeah. The show in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an amazing gig. Yeah.
I watched that because I'm just like, I'm just dying to see a show.
I know. Me too. My wife, where she was looking online to go see, there's, I guess, this kind of country artist that's playing this. I don't even know what it is. It's like it's a van that travels around, but they stationary here, not too far from where we live, at this little business, and they might let 20 people in. And we're like, let's go. It's just something to do.
Yeah. So the last question I have for you is one I've been asking everybody in 2020, is at least since the outbreak, because I think it's a fun question, but can you tell me a song from Anthrax and Armored Saint that during your time with Anthrax that you would say best describes the state of the world as we know it today?
Ooh. Let me think about that for a minute. Well, actually, Potter's Fields and Anthrax would be one, maybe, because I thought that I read recently that they were actually burying a lot of people from New York in Pottersfield, which is a cemetery where a lot of people who aren't claimed or maybe were unidentified back in the day, and so they would put them in Pottersfield. That was kind of that's what I think that place is, actually.
Yeah.
So I heard that they were actually burying bodies there shortly after the pandemic happened in New York. So I guess that would associate with what's happening. And I guess the song Bubble on the new record, because Bubble is weird because we wrote it probably like a year ago, and yet, that term bubble keeps being used so much. And it was before the pandemic. I kind of wrote it more about people trying to get into a particular club or a particular world, and if they get in that world, then they're like, wait a minute, maybe this is not where I want to be, and then they're trying to get out of it. And you can use that as a metaphor for a lot of different things. Kind of like, be careful what you wish for in life theory. But the funny thing is, bubble is being used so often in describing the circumstances. And so I thought that was kind of weird. It's ahead of its time in a way. So there you go.
Well, those are great answers. I kind of went, because I was thinking, I always think of an answer that I can think of, and I was kind of going, I spun off and kind of went into the direction of a lot of the racial intention we've got, and I kind of went with 1,000 Points of Hate or Riding Shotgun.
Oh, well, that's a good one. That's a great one.
Or Riding Shotgun.
Riding Shotgun, that's a cool song too. Yeah, I like that song.
The 2 steps forward, 100 steps back.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go, dude. I mean, that's very, very poetic. Good job, Scott.
And then, I mean, the obvious one for me was the one that you sang plenty of times, which "Keep It in the Family" from Persistence of Time was a great one too.
Yeah, well, of course, absolutely. Yeah. That's a great song, totally ahead of its time as well.
And then from Armored Saint, I thought "Mutiny on the World."
Well, Mutiny on the World kind of has this a little sarcastic, like almost humorous feeling to it. At least to me now it does. But I mean, it seems to be happening whether we like it or not.
Exactly.
Like, chill out, people. But
and then I just thought, why am I thinking so hard? We've got your current single "Attention Span," which is probably the best description of the world.
Yeah, well, that is. It's a great description of what's happening right now and our dependency on technology. And, how people spend things, online, and all of a sudden it's factual, and no, that's not. There's a bunch of people saying it is, but it has nothing to do with facts, man. Yep. Come on. So, and you want to be topical, especially as a lyricist. I think it's important. But also, for me, it's important to write about what's happening, but try to write in the same way so stuff is timeless. Because sometimes you'll look back on a song 10 years later and go, "Oh my goodness, that song really identifies with what's happening now." And I'll say this last thing, and that is, sometimes what the listener thinks, even if it's different from what I think, to me, that's more apropos than what I even thought about when I even went to write it.
Exactly.
So, like somebody will tell me something like, "This is what I get out of the song. Is that right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's great. When can I use that?" It sounds pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, John, I appreciate your time. It's been amazing to talk to you, and I'm glad I got to tell you my story about how I discovered you guys. So
I love that. You made my day with that. You really did.
Good.
That's great.
So everybody pick up the album when it comes out on October 23rd. Punching the Sky via Metal Blade Records. And John, you have a great rest of your day.
All right, happy birthday, brother.
Thank you.
About the live stream. Make sure everybody tunes into that. It'll be fun. And,
exactly.
Have a great rest of your week and be safe.
All right, you too. Thanks, John.
All right, thank you.
Bye.